Good evening and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the round of 32 of the $100,000 Overwatch Atlantic Showdown. Mitch Leslie is joining me, or I'm joining Mitch Leslie, whichever you prefer. Of course, he just cast the last one, OWKings. Dominant. I think we expected that, really. But now they're up against EndPoint. Slightly better team as they start progressing through the tournament.
Well, we were hoping so, I guess. There are some sort of more notable names on that team, depending on how far you go back. I triggered a couple of people actually calling Mark so intelligent SMG. To be fair, Lauren would never admit that, Pansy, of course, having played with him a lot. But I thought he gave a good account of himself in his gameplay videos. I thought he explained himself well. I don't know how you can explain an SMG's style of play, but he did it okay for me.
So. The phrase was always, because obviously I cast a lot of it back then when he was playing, all aim, no brain, was the exact phrase we used to use for him.
I think he's
fantastic player, magnificent player. Yeah. But somehow you just think, how did he just get away with that? Because there's like no logical thinking would
do that. But you know how many
that.
Times he used to say in his video, yeah, I done this, which probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you. He's like, I just thought I'd do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly it.
Okay.
All aim, no brain. It was the exact phrase. I'm going to give them a ready up. It's going to be Ro32 to start with. So, of course, we'll get things underway. Tell you who was probably the most intelligent player, maybe for me, was probably Rob Wiz. Robbie Wiz. He plays for Selfless now in Overwatch. Also, maybe, I don't know, Lincoln from Fnatic, ex-Fnatic days. And, there's a whole lot of players on his there. And obviously, he replied with Mark Pinney, good old Mark from Dignitas, who you actually would have met at ESL 1, probably.
Mark?
Yeah, Mark was there.
Not sure if I ran into him, actually.
Yeah, he was there with Kex and
I used to chat to a lot of the UK COD players.
I forgot I'm kicking the start. I was like, ready.
You're the host,
I'm ready.
Bro. Yeah.
I'm ready, guys. Yeah, for some reason they gave me the power. I don't know why. I don't know why they did that. But anyway, guys, let's drop into Ro32. So we just saw OWKings playing this exact map. So, yes, we know they're very good at it. And they did it, what, 3:39?
Yeah, 3:42, I guess, if you count extra time. Look, I mean, those two maps were examples of a team that really understands the game very well and also can execute on their team composition. I think EndPoint have a lot to do in this game. I think previously Wolfpack, I don't know, I think they started off with the Roadhog there as well, which I think is fine in some cases as well, but with how strong Zenyatta is and with likely being as good as he is, you just don't stay alive for very long. You don't have you want shields, right? You want shields, you want static defensive structures, you want just ways to avoid not getting hit rather than actually getting hit and having to deal with the consequences at the moment. So, especially with McCree and Zenyatta, these long-range guys that do stupid amounts of damage. But that's an aside now. We're going to be jumping in here, EndPoint defensively looking with a reasonable composition here. They are going to play that Genji on the defense as well, combining it with the McCree. Fantasy is going to be playing that Reaper, and it's just the single tank for this stage for Tokka.
Yeah, I love the fact that the Genji is going to be called Whoosh. Whoosh. Dives in there, but I might be trying to throw a few song titles in there. I'm just going to pre-warn you. It is 33 years from a certain album. You guys in chat might be able to guess which one it is, but we'll get things starting in a moment. But Blizz is going to be on the McCree. Let's go through. Tokka going to be on Reaper. Lucky will be on the Zenyatta. As you said, Fancy will be on Reapers. Actually, he took it in close. Is he thinking of going aggressive early on? That's risky. Trickwide going to be on the Lucio, and Whoosh will be on the Genji. And the attack inside, well, it's as you were, isn't it? Clown once again on Lucio. We're going to have Adatonian on the Winston, looking to go aggressive, jump straight on toward Big Earls. Olber's going to be on the McCree, popping around the corner there, little dinking shots, waiting for Winston, waiting for the goad sign, really, from the Winston. Rib's going to try and join him. I think it's going to be everybody pile on Big Earl.
I think Olber will be able to sit back here as well and just try and pick people off who aren't being shielded. So here's the standard go in. Good shield as well, quite easy. And look at that. Kill feed going nuts already. Twitty not actually seeing any of this action. It was actually Adatonian that went straight in there as well.
Well,
so we didn't know what happened, but I'll tell you what happened. Basically, that Winston went there and did some things that are probably illegal in some countries there. He was quite easily shielded up on there. The jump pack does damage. If you hit them, he must have nailed them and then even likely back him up quite well. Their Rib didn't have to do a whole lot in terms of what the kill feed told us.
Yeah, that was kind of pretty easy. They just went in and wrecked them. That was like... I didn't follow Adatonian because I was fully expecting to see like the build-up and everything, and there was no build-up. It was just death, and I think we're going to see another death here. Adatonian, though, looking to take some damage, and he will go down eventually. He does manage to get the kill on Luque, but you can see the payload almost reached his mark already. Olber's pushing around. He gets himself a double kill. He's going to make it a triple in a moment. Going to get the flashbang down. Doesn't quite finish it off as the Genji goes rampant. But Trickwad goes down. The payload marker reaches its first point.
Yeah, look, at worst, you get 2 respawns or 2 spawn waves as a defensive team to come back to that point there as well. So not a lot of margin of error and not a lot of chances there to make up for lost time if you do actually lose that first fight there. So now, again, very standard here for Olber. We saw him do this last game. He will push ahead, not only to get information, but also to try and establish a bit of presence here, not be forced off, and then he'll always be able to access that balcony from behind and just lay a lot of damage across here. So EndPoint need to address him very badly. And Blizz, well, if he wants to go 1-to-1 with Olber, he needs to be expecting Olber to come out of nowhere. We've seen him just go in and flash McCrees and headshot them and finish them off just from this spot here.
Yeah, a little bit of seek and destroy from Olber. Yeah. Definitely creeping around the side.
Oh, kill him all,
to get himself a flash in there. Oh, you're too early. I went too early with the big gun. Yeah. Showing no remorse, honestly, there. Of course, he is absolutely the Phantom Lord. Yeah, they're just coming in like the 4 horsemen at the moment. They're just going to pile on through. No messing.
Too much now, man.
Go.
Man, the days are sick over, man. Really. Well, I wasn't live when it was out, but I still got into it.
We'll see whether or not EndPoint will jump in the fire as they try to push forward.
Look at this guy. All right. So let's see. EndPoint, yeah, not putting up much more of a fight than we saw earlier on from Wolfpack here. OWKings just they don't love this map. They've sort of said that it's not really their favourite, but they know how to play it there. That's forced the Transcendence immediately out of Likely, which kind of works for him now, especially because Whoosh is going to be looking for other targets in the back line, and gets one. That's all, though. So Transcendence, very, very annoying if you are a Genji.
But it is down now. That was fun to see. He's going to come around the side. He's managed to get himself a 1-up. Can get a second here. Likely is forced to push away. The payload is held up at last. Finally, we see a little bit of fight coming out of EndPoint. They try and push something on. And now they're going to hold. Now, we saw... it was, I'm trying to think it was Ono. Ono against FaZe Clan, held on this exact point where Fancy stood. I'll go a little free cam actually, I'll show you. It's this exact cornerstone here. They held here for about 5 or 6 minutes against FaZe. There goes Fancy jumping straight in around the back. He gets himself a triple kill. Nicely done there. And this may well slow OWKings down. Now, of course, this is all going to be time which they may well try and post themselves. Whether or not they can actually finish the map is a big deal in itself for EndPoint. But OWKings been delayed pretty well.
Yeah, and now I think that they saw Fantasy go up there. Look, if you're playing into a Reaper on the defensive side, you know he's going to try and use those ledges. I think OWKings tried to respond to that Death Blossom. I think it was a shield that came down from Adatonium, but it wasn't enough. Now, Double Deadeye coming out. Who was going to get the kills? No one, actually, at this stage, as a sound barrier comes down for OWKings, and Olber's hoping to try and flank. You can see he's not allowed to get as close as he was in that last game here. That EndPoint is shutting him down. But here's a Transcendence, and Olber is going to struggle here to really get any damage to stick.
Yeah, it's just can't do anything there. Firing blanks effectively, and that's been a full minute hold, but it has been a lot of ultis coming out. You can see EndPoint don't have anything left available. Fancy not too far away, whereas look at the opposition. OWKings on the attack. They have themselves triple ultis ready to go. Rip with that Dragon Blade, and there's nothing to counter it this time around, but we do have Whoosh now with that Graviton Surge ready to go.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out. I mean, we do have a Primer Rage here. That's the Graviton Surge coming through now. Whoosh is going to get a little bit of damage to that to go down, but again, yet another Transcendence being used here. Olber gets himself 2 kills. Blizz the only one to actually get one. It's on a 20, which is not really the target you're looking for if you're diving a backline or something similar there, so he probably just had to be happy enough with that 1 kill and back away now as Rib is really starting to push things forward now. Does reflect the Fire Strike and actually catches Lukey through it as well there. That was Adatonium with a bit of extra damage. And now, the last stand here for EndPoint. This could be another fairly quick one here. Fantasy goes in, does get bubbled up for the Death Blossom, but it's cut down a little bit too early.
Yeah, I think he got flashbanged in there. I think he just got stopped mid-animation, which slowed it down. There we go. It's a quick time coming out of OWKings. Could have been much faster, so the small delay from EndPoint was enough to delay them just a little bit, but still, very quick. They were through the first 2 sections in around about 2-3 minutes, so it's nonetheless going to be a tough task. Let's see what they can do.
You can check with the players on time.
Yeah,
as well,
I will ask, just double check, because I didn't actually start my stopwatch.
The tricky part is as well, we're often introing the match when we have to hit the start button, so they should let us know.
That's my excuse, and I'll stick to it.
Anyway, so that was a pretty strong display from OWKings there as well. I think if you really want to, you really want to keep an attacking team to over 6 minutes, really, especially a team like OWKings now. So 5-10 is still a very good time on this map, which does have some of those longer stages, especially the second one is quite windy.
So think of the game they just played, obviously, against Wolfpack. Yeah, they did 3:30, 3:49, wasn't it? Something like that. So think of that. It was just that literally that minute stall on that corner. That's all it was.
Like
and then they ran out of ultis. They had nothing left. The one Graviton Surge, nothing else left to back it up. And sure as hell,
what you want to do to have a successful hold is not only stagger those ultimates out as well, but also have those people with impactful ults stay alive in those fights long enough and do enough damage to keep them coming, so that you never really actually have to fight without any ults or something like that. You can accept that you go into a fight with maybe an ult deficit, maybe the attacking team builds up 6 or something, but if you have enough to counter, like a Transcendence or a Sound Barrier, for example, you can nullify the impact of multiple ults if they're not used correctly. But EndPoint eventually had to run through them. I think Fantasy's Death Blossom there as well was one of the big components of those 2 holds I managed to put on that corner. But yes, eventually OWKings were inexorable as they press forward.
All right, guys, it's time to hit lights and get the show going. We have 5 seconds on the clock. Adatonian just marking his territory there with the sprays. Looks like they're going to go aggressive as well. Look at this. They're going to go aggressive from the start. I want to follow Adatonian. Likely's just going to try and bait them around the corner here. Look at them all in a position to go full-on aggression. Rib sitting around the side. Here they go, diving in. This is a very aggressive start coming out from OWKings. Is it going to work out? It doesn't look like it. Adatonian goes down. Olba gets himself 1 kill, though. It is an even 2 for 2 so far. You can see they're all fast to back away, and Fancy manages to pop himself 1 down. Olba gets dropped, and this could keep the payload moving fast. Twitty goes aggressive. He tries to push in. And now, as you mentioned at the start, you get about 1 or 2 spawns. They're going to get themselves another challenge just before the doors. But that backfired horribly.
Yeah, this is what happens sometimes when defensive teams actually try and take the fight themselves and they sort of find themselves on the wrong foot there. EndPoint actually didn't have to jump on top of Big L's to get to this point here. It was OWKings, as you saw, who tried to get at them around the corner there, and things didn't work out all that well. They sort of started dying 1 by 1, but now another fight here as well. OWKings want to wipe and then want to establish off the back of it, but Bush is going to shut down Clown to start things off, and Blizz still has a bit of free reign here, not being challenged as of yet. An advantage to be on the attacking side, getting to choose your vantage point. But Ribbon will get 2 each there. Nice little pick off there as well from the Zenyatta. Blizz will fall, and now EndPoint down to just only 3.
Here's the whiplash effect as Likely comes pushing on through. Does manage to get himself a triple kill. Can just finish the job. And Fantasy should go down here. There we go. So Likely on cleanup duty. Zenyatta's definitely a hero we've seen obviously come in since the balance patch changes. Only got 50 more shield, really. That was really all he needed, because he was just that weak, feeble hero that could get swatted down so much. Just that tiny little bit of shielding has basically brought him right back into the meta.
There's a few changes as well, like one of his key predators in Widowmaker isn't nearly as strong as she was now, so you can have a little bit more peace of mind about fighting now as that Zenyatta. You can see Likely not really being bothered right now, keeps his team nice and healthy up on top, and he can jump in here with a Transcendence, which he's going to have to do. Gets blocked by the wall there, but able just to sit himself on the payload and keep his team in absolutely topped off here. Even Adatonian, who normally would be taking damage at this point, damage has been completely overrun here by that Transcendence, which lasts for a good amount of time.
Well, Whoosh manages to get himself the double. Both supports, Likely and Clown, whipped off there. Tokka got himself Adatonian down after the Primal Rage ran out. And we do hit the payload markup. The problem is we're already at 2:20 into this. They're chasing a time of 5:10, so they need to be unhindered moving through this Wild West section.
Okay, so OWKings are happy enough with that at this stage. What they don't want to do is allow EndPoint to establish on top of this building or somewhere really forward. They want EndPoint to actually have to be stuck on that payload. OWKings want to have the high ground, I guess you could say, or at least the Overwatch in some respect now. But Olba needs to be careful not to get picked off on his own there. Has a Discord Orb and a couple of shots could be the end of him.
Oh, and the flashback nicely blocked out by the shield, but he will get the headshots onto Tokka there. Gets himself the double. Now the rest of the team, they're going to counter. They're going to push straight on towards them. Trix is going to get taken down from the side there. Flashbang comes in. Trick wide. Is he going to get dropped? Yes, he will. Rib will pick that kill up. And that payload is going nowhere. We are starting to feel like we're pulling teeth here. And OWKings wipe them out once again. 3 minutes, 11 seconds, and counting.
That's exactly what OWKings were looking for in the first stage. It's not even necessarily just a matter of winning the fight here as well. It means that they're not always running to get back to the payload. They can at least set up to a degree. Blizz now going to be using that Deadeye here as well. It's unlikely he'll find anyone, and now Olba will respond here. Anyone that's too far extended will be susceptible to this, and yep, and Blizz was going to fall.
Yeah, manages to get the self-destruct around the side, doesn't get anyone with it. So a couple of ultis all wasted out there. It was a pretty even fight as Whoosh manages to pick himself up the double. Made that change over to the Reaper. Seems to be working out well for them. Switching across from that Genji, but Clown gets the kill. Olba's still, I tell a lie, I was about to say still alive, but Twitty's still alive is the one I meant as he's coming back. And that payload You know what? I think he's going to hit the second marker. I think that judging by the positioning, they've started. No, okay, they're gonna keep it with it.
They got Transcendent still here as well. They got all the defensive ults they need, so they should come out now as well. Twitty going to be using the Graviton Surge as well, and ain't no amount of anesthesia that's going to keep EndPoint alive at this stage. You can see him getting pushed back on this one. Rib gets himself 3, and Whoosh also will fall. Yeah, GG. 4. We've hit 420, but they can't go. There's another minute to get through, so they're going to go back to lobby, and I'll do that. Because I'm in control, I can just fully say, no, you're done, boys. But fair play to both teams. They can't get any further. So, what is their next map going to be? Because I have to actually do this. Hopefully Dorado. I wouldn't mind seeing that one play. I mean, we've already seen it, yeah. So if you're bored of seeing Dorado, then look away now. But I wouldn't mind seeing them go for that one here as well. I don't think a 2 control point map is necessarily going to benefit EndPoint here at this stage. I don't think that's really where the flaws in their gameplay lie. I think that, Overwatch Kings managed to... The thing is, if you're a defending team, right, and you manage to win that one fight, you can establish so much for it there as well, and then the attacking team has to try and break you all over again. If you're constantly running in or not able to set up, then the attacking team doesn't actually really need to deal with super solidified positions from the defenders. Maybe that's sort of a little bit obvious to say there as well, but we did see that once Overwatch Kings won that fight, they were very, very hard to break, and they were able to stagger their ultimates out nicely.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the choice to come out. They still haven't decided. See where they're going to go. As you mentioned, probably going to be a payload map. Be surprised if it's a King of the Hill. It could be. Could be.
Yeah, I think...
it is Dorado. There you go. Yeah. See, called it. Nailed it.
Yeah, well, given our map pool, it's not always hard to guess which one's going to come out there as well. Exactly. I mean, they're wildly more popular. Some teams will go for the King of the Hill maps as well, but only if they specifically think that they know the other team and they think they have an advantage there as well. We've seen a lot of cases, even of some teams that don't know the opposing team, have tried to take it to King of the Hill and had no greater success there at all. So we'll see if the players are ready to go now as well. Dorado to be our second map. And to be fair, I'm not surprised that we were seeing this all over the bracket tonight as well, these 2 maps being picked up, as they are just generally more familiar to a lot of these players, more than even just popular or more enjoyable for them. When we started off as well, don't forget that Dorado is one of the most popular maps there with Kings Row. And still is really now. Route 66, a little bit less so. I think it is because of a lot of those longer angles as well. It's not so enclosed, a little bit easier for things like McCree's and stuff to cause you a lot of problems.
Admin D-Man at the helm here, and to switch all the teams as well. It's good filling there, good filling, Mitch. You had me covered. You had my back covered. They're ready to go. We're going to start the game off. So it's going to be Dorado, as you mentioned. I mean, is this all we've seen tonight? Oh no, we did see Kings Row to begin with. Kings Row to start with, so we could have gone there. So yeah, Kings Row, Dorado, Route 66, Route 66, Dorado. Woo! Let's drop into game. Let's get this underway. Map number 2 of the round of 32. We did see a shocker in the round of 32 last week, so we never really know where it's going to go sometimes. You do get teams come out of the blue. It was Ono, as I mentioned, taking out FaZe Clan. Bit of a shocker. They also almost took it to... Well, it ended up in a 3-0, but they could have easily gone to a third or a 4th or a 5th map, actually, in the round of 8 last weekend, but unfortunately wasn't quite to be. They were just a couple of minutes away. But let's talk about this map. You did also mention it, of course. We just saw OWKings. They did actually give up the first point, didn't they?
They did. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the second point, or at least outside the church, is a lot more easily defensible for a lot of teams as well. I think Overwatch Kings kind of jumped the gun a little bit, that first fight on the first point of Route 66, where they, as the defending team, went for it. I think in theory that's not a terrible idea at all, but it's a bit riskier. I think as a team like EndPoint, who doesn't get easily rattled by that kind of thing, or at least it seems that way, then it may not work. So Overwatch Kings now on the attacking side, I expect to see a lot of aggression, really. I expect to see Rib be very, very deep, as one might expect, but this guy especially, even him, he was Adatonian actually on the first map. That first push from Overwatch Kings, he went straight over the top, and all of a sudden we saw the kill feed fill up with 3 kills. So he and Rib combined quite nicely there as well. The man himself, Rib, switching away from the Genji and now playing himself the Winston here as well. So it is going to be that triple tank lineup, which I enjoy. It also gives Olba a ridiculous amount of security.
Well, they are holding the high ground, as you can see. Fancy will be on Reaper. Trickwild is going to be on the Lucio. There is a Zaya. I said Zenyatta for Whoosh. It is a Zenyatta for Luke. Blip's going to be on McCree once again. Let's have a spin across to McCree, actually, because he's holding a different angle from everyone else. And Tokka Yeah, it's going to be on the Reaper. So the rest of the team, they realised not really getting a great deal done from the side there. Didn't work out. Bliss getting quickly caught out by the Discord Orb, I think, of likely there, and a couple of tags through. But Albert and Cope continue to push on through. Look at them. They're going around the route, around the top left side. They're going to try and push on in.
Yeah, so they'll leave that payload completely unattended for the moment because they know that they will need everyone for this fight. So they're going to go forward. Notice Albert's positioning as well. Not even remotely close to the old fan, the Hammer McCree days of old. He's sticking well back behind that shield. So far, so good. I mean, they've lost Clown and Rib here, but almost losing Rib is expected at this stage with the Winston going so aggressive. So Albert just needs to follow up on some of this damage and keep an eye on his health bar because a couple of hits and he will be struggling. Harmony Orb is helping him. He does miss that flashbang though as well, and Blizz might have him here as well. He does, and that might be a part of EndPoint holding up here. They've still got 5 people in play. Toku's racing towards that point, and Overwatch Kings may have to back off.
But the problem is Additonium will have that Graviton Surge for the next push. Alba's got his Delph, the Deadeye ready. But Luke will have Transcendence, so see whether he can counter it. The defensive side. Whoosh is not too far away either. So this Transcendence will be vital when these ultis come through. I think we're going to see double Transcendence, actually. I think we're going to see them all piling in there. Here we go. They're going to try and jump on Luke. He has to use it defensively before the Graviton Surge got used.
Yeah, that's right. Very, very quickly. Now, both teams using those Transcendences here. The Graviton Surge, though, quite important. And there it is. Twitty and Rib. Clown all getting kills for themselves now as well. And Fantasy does just fall there. It's just Blizz right at the back. I don't think he was even in position really to take part in that fight. He now is. He gets killed very quickly.
Trying to find them as they die. It's the typical observer policy of switch that guy, he's dead. Switch that guy, he's dead. Switch that guy, he's dead.
It is often the case.
Minimap, please, 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 please.
Yeah, I mean, like, that kind of fight there as well. I mean, as a Zenyatta, and you see your opponent Zenyatta use Transcendence, firstly, it's a telegraph that they're fighting, or they're worried about fighting. Secondly, you need to use yours straight away as well, because otherwise they're going to be having 300 health per second restored to them, and your team is not. So yeah, it's one of those ults that has to be answered with another, similar to Sound Barrier in the same way as we used to see them used.
Might see Whoosh go aggressive here. He's got that Graviton Surge. He's going to try and pop around the side maybe. Here we go. Gets booted off though, so he's going to go aggressive. There's the Graviton Surge, but there's a whole lot of shielding around them. They will finally get themselves the kills though. Whoosh comes around the side. He just beams himself, gets himself kill after kill. Doesn't manage to clean up the entire team, but that payload will be stopped dead in its tracks. And that ulti working wonders.
Yeah, Overwatch Kings expended a lot of ultimates actually trying to get that first checkpoint in general. So now when obviously EndPoint have that advantage, it's good to see that they're at least prepared to use them. And there's a fine line, Lee, between using your ult carefully as a defending team and then skimping on them entirely and not using them enough here. So they haven't allowed Overwatch Kings to make too much progress. They're set up again. Fantasy will jump in with a Death Blossom. I think his timing with them on the last map was good. Let's see if he can emulate that here.
Jumps down the back, there's the Death Blossom around the side. Sound Barrier quickly counters it, doesn't get a great deal from it, but will chunk down that Sound Barrier. Bliss timed it nicely with his McCree ult, his Deadeye, gets himself 4 kills in the end there on the McCree from the high ground. So it works out well. Payload backing itself back up again.
Sometimes the Death Blossom itself isn't even the thing that's supposed to do the damage. It's crazy how much space you can create with a lot of these ults. And then Blizz, of course, knowing that Zarya had just shielded herself, the Additonian, should I say, himself, another teammate, and then a Sound Barrier come down for Overwatch King. So almost all the defensive ults that are available to them were already used by that point. Very, very easy for Blizz there to capitalize on that one, especially when everyone's so focused on dealing with Fantasy first.
So they're going to try and push them off the top here. Everybody around the top. Here they go, coming around the side there. Now, Graviton Surge available, but look at Whoosh. His is nearly ready to go as well because he's been so successful in the last 2 attacks, putting it on towards Fantasy. There's the Graviton Surge coming through. Additonian picks himself up a double. It's an absolute calamity. You can't see a great deal, but trust me, it is all happening there. Alba gets himself the double, and the team wipe will come through there. EndPoint pushed off site, and that payload may well reach its marker before they get a chance to respond.
I'm not one to be overly critical generally about sort of how things happen in these games there as well, but it does look like Whoosh used his ultimate in a little bit of a knee-jerk fashion there as well. Both Zaryas ended up using their Graviton Surges. Whoosh used his as soon as it came up, and he didn't get much from it because the rest of his team was already sort of dead there. So maybe it would have been helped. It would have helped if he'd saved it there, but Blizz were able to catch out Rib as he tries to hit to the backlines here, and now Overwatch Kings are losing a few players. Twitty also falls down now as well. I think he did just use an Earth Shatter for very, very little gain. Alba, though, hard to deal with. Toku's going to have to smack around the ears to get rid of him, and likely will fall there. Very vulnerable position up against McCree.
But they held it. They held the point. And now it's 2 minutes to go, so time is ticking. So it's not going to be a great time from OWKings here, which is going to give them a little chance here, EndPoint, but you can see they're going to have to hold a different position. They can't hold the high ground on the right side of the church now because the payload's moved here. They have to hold the left because they're in the danger of being flanked around the side, which is exactly what's happening. You can see them pushing around here, and they could get caught around the back. So instead, they have to get around, and that's some great shooting. Doesn't quite manage to finish Olber off, though. Can he get the last shot? No, the shield just saves him.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a good place to try and contain Overwatch Kings. They don't spawn from here yet until that payload gets in front of the nuclear plant. So obviously Overwatch Kings trying to work through here as it's a less vulnerable way of going through, but there's sneaky little payload movements there, nicely done by Overwatch Kings. Now they will spawn back in that courtyard, and this means that EndPoint, for all their bluff and bluster, are going to have to back up and allow Overwatch Kings to get a bit more progress here, because they will spawn closer than EndPoint do to this payload.
And that was the exact reason they were holding that point, so they didn't get a sneaky attack through the bottom, but just the speed boost from Clown came out. You can see Trickwild, he's going to get picked off, not with his team, of course. They don't all just being picked off, and he's going to be separated in the spawn times now, and look at it. It's a 6-man ult ready to go from OWKings. They are ready and waiting to drop the hammer.
Blisp now as well, just going to be using that shield and high ground control for EndPoint here as well. Will be important. The problem is that Overwatch Kings can access that balcony fairly easily. There comes the Graviton Surge down now. The shield was in the way, but Twitty is going to get taken down by Toko. They actually kill each other there, interestingly enough. Not a heck of a lot of value gained from that one, and now both teams use their sound barriers.
Not totally convinced by that one. Fantasy uses his Death Blossom, doesn't get a great deal from it. Rip's just holding on to his at the moment because they realize it wasn't such a successful ult. There we go, but it's going to get countered by Transcendence. There's going to be the Graviton Surge coming out from Whoosh, and that doesn't do a great deal either. They will finally get themselves a double kill. Blisp around the side trying to deal with Olber, but he'll get picked off. Very even fight, but in the end, it is all about who had the most ultis, and it was OWKings.
Yeah, not even that. Whoosh also was so adamant about trying to pick up Rib as he sort of ran away in Wraith form that he all of a sudden found him surrounded by Overwatch Kings players who were reinforcing this. So Rib died, but then so did he. He really traded 1-for-1, and then the rest of the fight started happening there as well. Goes down yet again, just gets out of spawn, and Twitty catches him now, and very, very lucky is Lukey to get away with that.
Yeah, he had 100 charge there. He's just beaming everyone down. Adatonian, no messing. Can't go near the Zayu when she's that strong. She's built up that much. There we go. That's going to be round 1 complete on Dorado. OWKings will post themselves a time. It wasn't a great time.
No.
I think around about 8 minutes close to 7:29 is what they're counting it as. So yeah, not the best of times. It's totally doable, but they need to get themselves a good start and get around that church area as fast as possible.
This is why I'm kind of glad that EndPoint didn't pick anything weird here as well. Seeing Dorado come through, I kind of feel like that's a map that gives us a few more of these games, these closer ones as well, and it's a map that EndPoint are a little bit more likely to be better rehearsed on. I think Bush played really well that game. I think there was a couple of unfortunate moments from him. I think his Graviton Surge up on top of the church in that fight was a little bit wasted there, which is honestly a very common knee-jerk reaction as a Zarya player. You know, sometimes you'd like, can this save my life, or can this actually, you know, you're dying and you're hoping to set something up, but sometimes you're not always aware that the rest of your team isn't there to capitalize. So if you had that a little bit later on, I think it would have been much harder. I don't think Overwatch Kings really would have been able to sneak through on that payload, but they just went through the vault side, Lee. That was quite simple. Where the payload was just outside of the nuclear plant, there obviously was a very sneaky, beaky little route that you could access there as well. Put like a Reaper through the vault side from the street, and then you can take it. So, time was pretty well stretched out for Overwatch Kings here as well, but it doesn't really matter if they can hold really well in these first couple of points here. Again, it's going to come down to how they use those ultimates defensively, how, I guess, if they just don't need to be too frivolous about it, Lee, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, standard defensive setup, you can see there. Posting themselves on the top, they will flank around and move in. Let's have a look what they're playing. You can see it's going to be Adatonian over on the Reaper. Clown once again on the Lucio. Ribs will be playing the Zarya once again. Very strong hero, in my opinion, right at the moment. One of the key meta heroes that's being picked, obviously along with Reinhardt, which is kind of standard. Twitty. Olber's going to be on the McCree and Zenyatta for likely. On the attack, we are going to see a Genji in action. So Trickwild's going to be on the Lucio. Whoosh will be on the Genji. We'll see how successful he can be. Maybe get that flank and try and distract as much as possible. We didn't see the Genji used by OWKings, but he has been hit with the Discord Orb already, so he needs to get out of there. Can't stand fight one, that's on you. Luke, of course, on the Zenyatta himself. Fantasy's going to be on McCree and see if he can get some of those left clicks going. Toko's going to be on the Reinhardt and Blitz on the Zarya as we find our first fight.
Yeah, good little passes of play from Woosh there as well. I think he actually reflected a ball into Olber's head from Zenyatta, so that forced him back immediately now, and this is going to allow Woosh to get a better position here as well. It's not his job to do all the damage until he has that Dragon Blade ready, so you'll notice him trying to stick back towards his sort of backlines and maybe peel from some of those offense heroes. This is a good example of that kind of behavior now, as Adatonian does fall to Fantasy. Now Woosh thinks I can go in, but maybe a little bit cavalier of him.
Maybe a little too early, I don't know. Fantasy, they'd only got the one kill. Does manage to get the fan, the hammer down on the Reinhardt, but no follow-up. Twitty will not get the kill. And now we're already at the 1 minute mark. And this is what I was talking about. They need to not get held up here, and they need to push on through. So 7 minutes 30 is the time they're chasing. We're already 1 minute 15 in and counting, so they have to try and push as hard as they can. They will have themselves a couple of ultis on the next attack, but as you can see in the top right-hand side, OWKings have themselves a plethora of ultis ready to go.
Yeah, if you're likely here, you're not going to feel bad at all about using your Transcendence to counter a Dragon Blade, for example. That can really break teams open, especially on this point, as it's not always easy to see a Genji coming in from the periphery. But now Olber, look at his positioning again. I like this about him. He sticks right back. Sound barrier coming down now as well for OWKings, going to keep them a little bit more durable. Likely did eventually fall to the very angry Genji like we expected. He didn't use his Transcendence though, so if OWKings can hold here, they'll be looking good. But that's a nasty Earth Shatter.
It is. Now who's left with the point? It is going to be a Lucio that's sat running around the statue trying to boop them away. Got nowhere to go though, Clown. And they will get forced out. I think they should hit the point here before they get contested. I don't think anyone's going to try and come around. They're going for the high ground now. You can see the X-ray vision. That is where Twitty is going. So it's high ground time. So, not too bad. Not too bad a time overall. 2:15, reaching the first payload point. 7:30 is the time they're chasing, so they've got just under 5 minutes to finish the map.
Woosh there, just sitting up on the ledge. He'll be able to just peek across and get information before the rest of his team, just in case the OWKings did want to start up a fight really early here. So, Deadeye here for Olber. They want to try and set something up to distract attention away from him, but no other real big ults. I guess the Earth Shatter and the Graviton Surge aren't far away. Adatonian, I don't really know if he's been able to do a whole lot actually in this game so far, because he still hasn't got his first ultimate yet.
Well, High Noon does get popped by Olber, but he gets himself a double with it. That's going to be beautiful. That's just stopped them dead in their tracks. Fantasy was the only man. He was trying to get the flank. He was like, I'm going to go around the back of the church. You're all dead. Oh. And now he's just...
Guys, I'm going up to set up for Deadeye. Okay, maybe not. Yeah. That is the problem though sometimes as well. Like, McCree now is not an ulti-bot, not nearly as much as he maybe was when he sort of got nerfed in the right-click sense, so you can't really do that anymore so easily. This is all well and good. You might get almost one kill, but you'd be not happy with that, yeah. Mark Pinney, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was a disaster.
And now his team gets mashed, by the way, if he's not there.
Well, he got a Graviton Surge off, but so did Rib, and you can see it's just countered completely by the Transcendence once again, and the rest of his team do get picked off. Woosh was the shining light, got himself a double, got both supports down, Clown unlikely, but as you can see by the kill feed, he then got dealt with, and it was another solid hole. Problems occurring for EndPoint, and as you mentioned, Mark Penny, he's going to be unhappy with that Fantasy.
Yeah. To add insult to injury there as well, he hung around after the rest of his team died because he actually couldn't get into the fight, and then he gets picked off 1v1 by Olber, who's been, to be fair, making the Mexican standoff very, very hard for that man so far today.
Well, Earth Shatter available for Twitty as they start to come in there. Rib building up his shield, actually trying to bait it out there. That was beautiful. Baiting out the fact that he got Graviton Surge, so they all backed away, dropped the shield, panic mode. Earth Shatter comes through. High Noon will come out from Fantasy. Not too sure if he's going to get anything with it. Won't. You see the shield backing out there. Olber will use one of his own. He gets himself a kill. That's going to be the Zenyatta going down. And a pretty even kill feed at the moment, but it's still Fantasy in desperation mode. Fan the Hammer saves him.
Yeah, he played that fairly well, I think, positionally as well. He did know Olber that was ulting, and then he sort of backed away. So this should get in the next checkpoint. And this is going to make this quite a close affair now. There is time still for EndPoint to get it done. And after that fight, I like the idea, I really do. I like the idea of Azaya shielding up and running into the enemy team and seeing how they respond. And I think we saw an Earth Shatter and a Transcendence coming out from that. Unfortunately, it was actually enough to win EndPoint the fight and eventually in any case. And that checkpoint has not yet been reached. The payload is under a meter away, though, and they pushed him back.
And we're at 5 minutes. So 2 minutes 30 to get around. There's the Graviton Surge. That's what they were faking out before. This time they have it. Olber just flings around, fanning the hammer straight into the crowd. Woosh gets himself a double, will get picked off, and they are back to the start point once again.
God, it's just like the fan, the hammer abattoirs firing up there. It was good, actually, because even though the Reinhardt was caught by the Graviton Surge, Olber just popped a flash over the shield to make sure that, you know, Overwatch Kings could get the brunt of the damage across onto them. And they still have 3 ults for this next fight. So this is very, very holdable here for Overwatch Kings at this rate.
Well, there's Olber's ulti coming from above. Oh, and he's going to get himself fancy, and Luke, they were out of the shield range. That is tragic. Adatonium pops his Death Blossom, doesn't get anything from it, but it doesn't matter. Damage has been done, and they're forced away once again. We're at the 6-minute mark, ladies and gentlemen. They've now got a minute 30 to finish off the game. This is not looking likely for EndPoint, as they have been stalled out time and time again around the church. It's what I said right at the start. If they can get through the church section fast, they have a chance, because that last section can snarl you up at the best of times. But if you get caught up here, just your ultis are just not in the same time frame, which is what's been happening here. They've been stalled out and countered. You can see Blitz, but he's trying to get his Graviton Surge in there as quick as possible. Panicked in the end and just used it for one person.
Yeah, still a couple of kills coming out, though, for BlizzP. I think 2 were eventually caught in that one. This is a very important fight, of course, and there's only the Transcendence left for Overwatch Kings. I think it now gets used here to keep the remaining players alive, but still, Burst is going to go through that. You can't heal your teammates through, I don't know, a Deadeye or something, even if you are giving them so much health per second, because it's instant damage. That payload will sneak across the line, Lee, but there's still not much time left here for EndPoint to get the job done.
So there's no ultis available for OWKings. This is something in their favor. They've got to wait for the animation. This big door has to open around the side. We're at 7 minutes. They've got 30 seconds to finish the map. They cannot be stopped once. They have to just push on through. Now, OWKings are going to be aware of this. All they have to do is slow down, stall it out, and just jump in one by one. That's what they're going to do. The door shuts down. It's the crucial time to separate the team, and you can see they've got around the side of them. Olber picks off Tokka, and this is going horribly wrong.
Yeah, Sound Barrier, they're really helping Olber to stay alive there. Blizz tried to challenge him out, but only had about 15 charge on his cannon. It's not going to do enough damage. Rib comes in, it's a backhand to the face here, as though both those Zaryas do go to war. Now Olber getting picked off by Lukey, but it takes more. It's so hard to access this payload getting around the side there, and that is going to be the GG coming out here. No time left for EndPoint. They showed us a little bit more than perhaps what we expected after the first map, Lee, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, not quite enough. It's a minute. I'm not going to wait for the play of the game to go all the way back there. So what I'll do is throw it back into the lobby. Congratulations to OWKings moving through to the round of 16. Didn't expect anything less. EndPoint put up a bit of a challenge for a brief moment there. We thought, you never know. The 7:30 time wasn't great from OWKings, honestly. So it was certainly beatable, but that church section just proved too much for them.
And they knew they had to back that up as well. I mean, I think it's quite a contrast to the first time we saw Overwatch Kings on Dorado, where they had such a good time on the attack. You saw how they played the defense, like throw one in here, try and pick off one, just stagger out spawns, keep them sort of just, you know, drips and drabs coming on into those fights. This time they didn't really have that ability to do that. There was a very distinct time that they had to defend for. Olber, I think, is really, really good at positioning himself in a way that an enemy Reinhardt is, it's a lose-lose for him, right? You either shield the Deadeye or someone else uses, you know, another impactful ultimate on you from another angle. When they pushed up towards the front of the power plant itself, it wasn't really a mistake from the Reinhardt of the side of EndPoint there. He was actually already shielding out something quite important, and unfortunately, he had to deal with that. It's a very hard point to push into when I think it is actually almost 360 degrees of balcony coverage around it. So good positioning from McCree is really going to pay off for you there.
Yeah, I mean, it was... I mean, OWKings got a bit lucky as well, because if you think of their attack, they used that Graviton Surge up on high that kind of did nothing. But then it was countered by nothing as well from EndPoint, so they kind of both got away with total screw-ups. But in the end, it is OWKings that will go through. We're going to find who they're going to be playing in the next bracket after the break.